Welcome to Mr. Academia YouTube channel. We remind you to subscribe to this YouTube channel, share, like, and also comment on our lessons such that you enjoy the best out of all our lessons. We are going to look at the subject of the formula. If we talk about subject of the formula, I will mean that a number appears once and it only appears on its own side of the equation. For example, if you look at this equation here, you clearly realize that in this equation here we have for s equals d out of t, or d divided by t. So s is the subject of the formula, since s is on this side alone, and on this side we have d and t. So what if now we want to make t the subject of the formula? It means that we are going to leave t on its own side of the equation, meaning that it should be alone on the side of the equation. So we shall first multiply both sides by t, and this gives us t times s, which is ts equals d. And finally, to remain with t alone, we shall divide by s, such that we have t equals d divided by s. So in this case, we say that we have made t the subject of the formula because t appears on its side alone in this equation here, or it appears on the left-hand side of the equation, and it is only t that appears on that side of the equation. If we have an equation which is y equals mx plus c, the subject in this case, since there is y alone on this side, so we say y is the subject of the formula and y is equal to mx plus c. So if we want to make x the subject of the formula, it's same as leaving x on its own side of the equation. So what we do here is we first remove the c. So we subtract c from both sides. So we end up with y minus c equals mx. So to remain with x alone, it means that we shall have to divide both sides by m, such that we end up having y minus c divided by m equals to x. So if you want, you can take x to the left-hand side, as you can see, such that x equals y minus c divided by m. So we have made x the subject of the formula. If you look at this equation here, where v is the subject of the formula expressed in terms of pi, r, and h, v is the subject. And then if you want to make h the subject, it means that we have to take all these others on this side of the equation where there is v. So first of all, we start by removing 3 and we take it the other side. You can see we are multiplying by 3 both sides, such that we have 3v equals pi r squared h. And then the next we have to remove the pi r squared, and we can remove it by dividing by pi r squared on both sides. And finally, we can state h on the left, and this will give us h equals 3v out of pi r squared. If we also want to make v the subject of the formula, because it is, if you want to make r, because r has a square here, so of course we shall first remove the 3 by cross multiplying, or we multiply by 3 both sides, and we have this. So if we now want to, next we have to remove pi and also remove h, that is by dividing with pi h. You can see how we are dividing with by pi h to have this. And finally, to remain with r, we take the square root on both sides. So if you take the square root of r, we remain with r this side, because when the square root is taken here, if you take the square root here, because it is supposed to be taken on both sides, so this side, the square root sign crosses with the square, and remain with r alone. So finally, you can end up by writing r on the left-hand side if you want, such that r equals to this, and we say that we have made r the subject of the formula. Next, if we look at this equation here, if you have to make x the subject of the formula, so in this case, you can see there is x this side and also x this side. So in this case, what we have to do is that you first make sure the terms which have x are on the same side of the equation. So that's why we are adding 7x on both sides, such that 7x leaves this side and goes to this other side. So that we end up having ty x plus 7x equals to t. And then after, we can go ahead and factorize out the x, such that if I remove x from ty, I remain with ty. If I remove x from 7, I remain with 7, and this will be equivalent to t. And finally, we divide by what is in brackets to remain with x alone on the left-hand side. And therefore, x will be t divided by ty plus 7, and I've made x the subject of the formula. If we look at this, where we have to make t the subject of the formula. So this is what we do. We first of all multiply by t throughout, and when we multiply by t this side we shall have tp. When we multiply this one by t, so the t will cross. Multiply this one by t, we have 7t out of r. And so now, since we want to make t the subject of the formula, we shall now uh, multiply by r, and when we multiply by r, this is what we get when everything is multiplied by r, because we want to first remove all the denominators, and then after we make t alone the subject of the formula. So finally, we end up having 7t. I'll end up subtracting 70 on both sides because we have to take this t also the other side. Um, and and when it goes there, we end up having this. So if you factorize out t from the left, I'll end up having a pr minus 7 into bracket t is equal to 3r. So to remain with t alone, we divide by what is in brackets here, such that when we divide, we get t equals 3r divided by pr minus 7. So we have made t the subject of the formula. So in this case here, if you look at this equation, we are supposed to make y the subject of the formula. Look at the steps as they are being made here. X uh, here. First of all, we first remove the p. We take p this side, and then after we shall deal with removing the square root. So when you have a square root, to remove it, you square on both sides. That's why you have y minus p squared equals r divided by x. And finally, we multiply by x such that this x now multiplies with this to give us this. So to remain with x, we divide by what is in brackets here, y minus p squared. Such that the answer for x is x equals r out of y minus p squared. So we have made x the subject of the formula, but also remember to subscribe, share, like, and also comment on our lessons to get notifications for all our new lessons. Otherwise, thank you for attending and have the best out of all.